Have you ever noticed that the harder you chase happiness, the faster it slips away? You get the new phone, the nice car, the weekend trip, and yeah, it feels good for a minute. But then the emptiness comes back, and you start asking yourself, what's wrong with me? Why am I still not happy? See, the world keeps selling us this idea that happiness is out there, in more money, more likes, more stuff. But the Stoics, they called that out a long time ago. They said real happiness isn't something you buy or something other people give you. It's something you build inside yourself, where nobody else can touch it. So in this episode, we're not going to talk about chasing the next high or faking positivity. We're going to ask a tougher question. What does it actually mean to live a good life? The Stoics gave us answers that are raw, real, and honestly, a little uncomfortable, because they don't tell you what you want to hear, they tell you what you need to hear. And here's the challenge I'll throw at you. What if the reason you're not happy is because you've been looking in the wrong place all along? Happiness is not pleasure. We've all been there, thinking happiness is about stacking up pleasures like chips at a casino. You get the new sneakers, you binge your favorite show, you hit that wild party, you buy that thing you've been eyeing online. For a second, it feels like you've won. But then what happens? That high fades. The sneakers get dirty. The show ends. The party leaves you drained. And suddenly, you're back at square one, looking for the next fix. That's the trap most of us fall into, confusing pleasure with happiness. The Stoics were clear about this. Pleasure isn't bad. They never said don't enjoy life. Go ahead, eat the good meal, laugh with your friends, celebrate the wins. But don't mistake those moments for the foundation of a good life. Because pleasure is like sugar. It tastes sweet, but it doesn't last. And if you keep chasing it, you'll crash. Happiness, the way the Stoics saw it, was more like building muscle. It takes work, it takes discipline, and it's not always fun in the moment. But it makes you stronger, more stable, and it actually sticks with you. Think about it. If happiness were just pleasure, then celebrities with millions in the bank, endless vacations, and every luxury imaginable should be the happiest people on earth. But you and I both know that's not how it goes. Some of them are miserable, lost, even self-destructive. Why? Because their lives are built on the unstable ground of more. And no matter how much they grab, it's never enough. The Stoics flipped the script. They said real happiness comes from living in a way that can't be taken from you. It's about character, about the way you face the world, about how solid you are inside. They believed that a person who builds their life around virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control has something unshakable. You can lose your job, lose your money, lose people, but nobody can take away the way you choose to live, the way you choose to respond, the integrity you carry. That's a happiness that isn't rented, it's owned. And here's the crazy part. The less you tie happiness to pleasure, the more you actually enjoy the pleasures that come. Why? Because you're not desperate for them. You don't need them to feel complete. You can sit down with a simple meal and taste it fully because you're not distracted by the thought that it should have been something fancier. You can laugh with a friend without worrying if it's Instagram worthy. You can enjoy the moment for what it is, a bonus, not the foundation. The problem today is that we're conditioned to treat pleasure like medicine. Feeling sad, shop, feeling lonely, hook up, feeling bored, scroll. But those things don't heal the wound, they just cover it up. The Stoics would tell us, stop running from discomfort. Stop treating pleasure like it's the cure. Happiness isn't about dodging pain or filling every empty second with noise. It's about being okay with yourself as you are, right here, right now. So next time you catch yourself saying, "I'll be happy when I get that promotion, when I find the right partner, when I buy that new car," stop. Ask yourself, what if none of that came? Could I still be okay? Could I still live a good life? That's the test. If your answer is yes, you're closer to real happiness than most people out there. Control versus chaos, double asterisk. If there's one thing that will drive you insane faster than anything else, it's trying to control stuff that's way outside your hands. Think about it. You can't control traffic when you're late. You can't control what people post about you online. You can't control the weather when you've got plans. And you definitely can't control how someone feels about you. Yet most of our stress, most of our anxiety, most of our frustration comes from acting like we should be able to. It's like trying to stop the ocean with your bare hands. The harder you push, the more it crushes you. The Stoics saw this clearly. They broke life down into two buckets, the stuff you can control and the stuff you can't. That's it. No gray area. No, maybe if I try harder, I'll bend reality. You control your thoughts, your choices, your actions. You don't control other people, random events, or outcomes. And here's the brutal truth. The moment you confuse those two buckets, you hand your peace of mind over to chaos. Let's be real. Most people live like puppets, yanked around by every external string. Someone cuts them off on the highway, their mood's ruined for hours. Their boss snaps at them. They carry that weight home. They post something online and don't get enough likes. Suddenly, they're questioning their worth. It's chaos, pure and simple. And the Stoics would look at that and say, "Why are you letting the world own you like that? Why give away your freedom?" Now, I'm not saying it's easy. If it were, everyone would be Zen monks floating around in perfect peace. But here's the secret. The more you practice focusing only on what you can control, the more bulletproof you get. Let's say you're stuck in traffic. Old you, pounding the steering wheel, cursing, stressing about being late. Stoic you. All right, I can't move the cars, but I can decide how I sit in this moment. I can listen to a podcast, breathe, or use the time to think. Nothing changed outside, but inside, you took back control. Same with relationships. You can't force someone to love you, respect you, or stay with you. You can only show up with integrity, honesty, and consistency. If they bounce, that's their choice. If you base your happiness on controlling their decision, you'll always be at their mercy. But if you anchor yourself in your own actions and values, you walk away with peace, even if it hurts. That's real power. Here's the kicker. Focusing on what you can control doesn't just protect your peace, it actually makes you more effective, because you stop wasting energy fighting battles you can't win. You stop screaming at the storm and start steering your own ship. And people notice. They see someone who doesn't crumble when things go wrong, who doesn't lose their head in the middle of chaos. That presence is magnetic. It's the kind of strength the world respects, because it's rare. Think about it. Every day, life throws curveballs. You'll lose money, people will disappoint you, plans will fall apart. That's not a glitch in the system. That is the system. The question is, are you going to keep trying to bend the universe to your will, or are you going to master the one thing you've had power over all along, yourself? The Stoics would say this is the line that separates the free from the enslaved. Not chains, not prisons, not politics, but whether you spend your life raging at chaos or focusing on your own choices. You want a good life? Stop wasting your energy where you have none, and double down on the one place you do. Your own mind, your own actions, your own character. virtue as the true good. Here's the part that hits hardest. The Stoics believed that the only thing that's truly good in life is virtue. Not money, not success, not popularity, not pleasure. Virtue. And yeah, I know, virtue sounds like some old school church word, like it belongs carved into marble or whispered by monks. But what they meant by virtue was simple: living with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. Those 4 pillars. If you built your life on them, the Stoics said, you'd have a foundation no storm could shake. Now, think about how most of us measure a good life. We look at someone's bank account, their house, their relationship, their looks. But none of those things actually guarantee happiness. You can have all the money in the world and still be miserable if you're a coward who runs from challenges, or a liar who cheats people, or someone who can't control themselves. And you can be broke, unknown, and living in a tiny apartment, but feel unshakably solid if you're wise, fair, disciplined, and brave. That's what the Stoics were pointing at. Real value doesn't come from what you own. It comes from who you are. Take wisdom, for example. It's not about having a library in your head. It's about seeing clearly, knowing what matters, what doesn't, and making decisions that line up with reality, not fantasy. Courage. That's not just running into burning buildings. It's speaking up when it's easier to stay quiet, or standing by your values when the crowd pressures you to sell out. Justice is treating people right, even when it doesn't benefit you, because you recognize we're all part of the same human story. And self-control, that's the ability to master your impulses, to not be a slave to every craving, every flash of anger, every distraction that drags most people around like a dog on a leash. Now imagine a person who actually lives by those 4. That's someone you trust, someone you admire, someone you want on your side when life gets rough. Notice how different that feels from admiring someone just because they're rich or famous. Wealth can disappear, fame fades, but virtue, that's untouchable. No government, no tragedy, no jealous hater can strip that from you. Here's where it gets deep. If virtue is the only true good, then everything else in life is just preferred or dispreferred. Health, preferred. Wealth, preferred. Relationships, preferred. Poverty, sickness, failure, dispreferred. But neither side defines your worth. They're just circumstances. The real test is how you carry yourself through them. The Stoics would say, show me your character in loss, in temptation, in success, in failure. That's where I'll see if you're living a good life. And this idea is powerful in today's world because we've been trained to measure our lives with the wrong yardstick. We scroll past highlight reels of other people's vacations, jobs, bodies, relationships, and think we're falling behind. But deep down, you know none of that guarantees peace. A guy with a six-pack can still be insecure. A millionaire can still hate himself. A celebrity can still feel completely alone. But someone with virtue, they can walk through fire and keep their soul intact. That's a kind of success no algorithm can fake. So when the Stoics say virtue is the true good, they're not trying to sound holy. They're giving you a survival guide. They're saying, stop measuring your life by what you can lose and start building it on what you can never lose. That's how you live a good life, not by stacking pleasures or chasing status, but by becoming someone you respect when you're alone in the dark. Freedom from desire. Here's something nobody wants to admit. Most of us are prisoners, and the chains aren't on our wrists. They're in our minds. Those chains are called desire. You know the feeling. I'll finally be happy when I get that promotion. I'll feel complete once I buy that car. I'll be enough when I get someone to love me. It's like we're all dangling carrots in front of our own faces, running like crazy but never catching them. That's why the Stoics were ruthless about desire. They saw it as one of the biggest traps that keeps us from peace. Desire is tricky because it dresses itself up like motivation. It tells you, just one more thing, then you'll feel good. But what happens the second you get it? The rush fades and a new desire pops up. It's a never-ending treadmill. And the worst part? Desire hands your happiness over to things you don't even control. If your peace depends on getting what you want, then you're always at the mercy of chance. Because what if the job doesn't come, the person doesn't choose you, the money doesn't land? Then your whole sense of worth collapses. The Stoics flipped that script. They taught that freedom doesn't come from getting everything you crave, but from needing less. Seneca said it best. The man who has the least is not the one who owns nothing, but the one who needs the least. That's heavy. Think about it. If you're content with a simple meal, you're free from being enslaved by expensive feasts. If you can enjoy your own company, you're free from being desperate for constant attention. If you can walk around in peace without needing every desire met, then nobody owns you. And here's the truth. Desire isn't just about stuff. It's about approval. How many people burn out because they want everyone to like them? How many times have you said yes when you wanted to say no, just because you didn't want to disappoint someone? That's desire too, the craving for validation. But once you realize you don't actually need everyone's approval to live a good life, you unlock a whole new level of freedom. You stop being a puppet, dancing to other people's strings. Now, does this mean the Stoics wanted us to be robots with zero wants? Number. They weren't anti-pleasure or anti-goal. They weren't saying, don't want a better life. What they were saying is, keep your desires in check. Don't let them own you. Use them like tools, not chains. It's fine to want that promotion, but don't tie your whole self-worth to it. It's fine to want love, but don't make it your oxygen. Because once desire becomes a need, you're trapped. Once you believe, I can't be okay unless I have this, you've handed over the keys to your peace. Freedom from desire is really about remembering that the best things in life are already here. Your breath, your mind, your ability to choose how you show up. These are things no boss, no partner, no economy can take away. And when you start grounding your happiness in them, you stop being tossed around like a ship in every storm of I want, I want, I want. Here's the real flex. The person who doesn't need much is untouchable. You can't bribe them, you can't scare them, you can't control them. That's real power. Not needing the world to hand you everything, but standing solid with what you already are. That's when you're finally free. Resilience in suffering. Let's be real. Life is gonna hurt. No matter how much money you make, how fit you are, how many followers you rack up, pain is non-negotiable. Someone you love will leave, your plans will fall apart, your body will get sick, time will take people away from you. Most of us spend our lives trying to dodge suffering, like if we just play the game right, we can escape it. But the Stoics didn't play that game. They didn't see suffering as a glitch in the system. They saw it as the system itself. Pain isn't the enemy, it's the training ground. Here's the problem with trying to avoid pain. The more you run from it, the weaker you get. Think about a muscle. If you never put it under stress, it stays soft. But if you push it, if you tear it and work it, it grows stronger. The Stoics believed the same about the soul. Every loss, every failure, every hardship is a chance to build resilience, to grow tougher, sharper, more grounded. It's not about enjoying pain, it's about refusing to let it break you. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who literally wrote his diary in the middle of war and plague, said it best. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Translation? Pain happens, but suffering is optional. What destroys us isn't the event, it's the story we attach to it. Someone betrays you. You can decide that means, I'll never trust anyone again. Or you can decide it means, I'll get better at spotting who's worth my loyalty. You lose your job, you can spiral into, I'm worthless. Or you can choose, here's my chance to reinvent myself. The event is the same, the meaning is yours to choose. And here's where it gets powerful. When you start viewing suffering as training, you stop being afraid of it. Instead of dreading the storm, you step into it knowing it's gonna shape you. You stop asking, why me? And start saying, why not me? Let this be my test. That shift turns pain from a curse into a forge. It burns, yes, but it also builds. Look around. The strongest people you know aren't the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who got knocked down and figured out how to stand up again. They've been through fire and came out carrying wisdom instead of ashes. That's resilience. Not pretending life doesn't hurt, not slapping a fake smile over it, but facing the hit, feeling it fully, and deciding, this will not define me. I'll define it. Here's the kicker. Once you learn resilience, you become unshakable. People fear losing comfort, but if you've learned how to endure, you're free. If you can handle heartbreak, failure, disappointment, and still stand, then life has nothing left it can take from you. That's the kind of power the Stoics lived by, the kind that made them calm in chaos, steady in loss, even grateful in suffering. So the next time life hits you, don't just ask, how do I get out of this? Ask, what is this here to teach me? What muscle is this moment trying to build? Because resilience isn't born in comfort, it's born in the fire. And the Stoics knew, if you can survive the fire without letting it steal your soul, you're already living a good life. The present moment is enough. Here's a hard truth. Most of us don't actually live in the present. Our bodies are here, but our minds are either stuck replaying the past or racing ahead to the future. You're lying in bed at night, and instead of resting, you're thinking about that dumb thing you said 5 years ago, or you're stressing over what might happen next week, next year, next decade. It's like we're anywhere but here. And the crazy thing? That's why so many of us feel unhappy. Because we're living everywhere, except in the only place life actually happens, this moment, right now. The Stoics were blunt about this. They said the past is gone, you can't touch it. The future hasn't happened, you can't control it. The only thing you ever truly own is this present moment. That's where your power lives. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal, confine yourself to the present. He wasn't being poetic. He was giving himself survival instructions. Because every time you anchor yourself here, you cut off the endless anxiety that comes from trying to live in times that don't exist. Think about it. How much of your stress is about stuff that isn't even happening right now? You're not losing your job at this second, but you're playing out scenarios in your head. You're not arguing with that person at this second, but you're rehearsing comebacks. You're not even living the problem, you're living the anticipation of it. And anticipation is often worse than the real thing. The Stoics knew this. That's why they push so hard to return to now. Because now is usually a lot more bearable than the movie we create in our minds. When you actually live in the present, something amazing happens. Simple things become enough. drinking a glass of water, feeling the sun on your skin, hearing someone laugh. These stop being background noise and start being sources of peace. You don't need every moment to be dramatic or Instagram-worthy. You can just exist and let that be enough. That's a freedom most people don't even realize they're missing because they're too busy rushing to the next moment. And here's where it ties back to happiness. If you can't be happy right now, you won't be happy later. You think you will, but you won't. If your mind is always chasing the future, then even when you reach that future, your mind will already be chasing another one. It's like trying to drink water with a cracked cup. No matter how much you pour in, it leaks out. The Stoics were basically telling us, fix the cup. Learn to hold the present without letting it slip away. Does this mean you never plan for the future? Of course not. But there's a difference between planning and living in fear of what hasn't happened yet. Planning uses the present to prepare. Fear drains the present to feed imaginary disasters. The Stoics would tell us, do your work now, live your values now, love the people in front of you now. The rest, let it come when it comes. Here's the real challenge. Can you sit in silence without reaching for your phone? Can you enjoy a meal without needing to post it? Can you let today be enough without demanding tomorrow to be better? That's what the Stoics meant by presence. Not checking out, not ignoring reality, but fully stepping into it moment by moment. Because in the end, life isn't a highlight reel. It's this breath, this heartbeat, this second. And when you finally realize the present moment is enough, you stop missing your life while you're busy chasing it. Happiness as inner alignment. You ever felt that weird split inside you, like part of you says one thing, another part wants something else, and meanwhile you're acting in a totally different way? That's inner chaos. It's exhausting, and deep down, you know it. You say you value honesty, but you lie to avoid conflict. You say you care about your health, but you're up at 3 a.m., crushing fast food. You tell yourself family comes first, but you're glued to your phone when your kid's talking to you. That split between what you think, what you say, and what you do, that's what kills your peace. The Stoics believed happiness comes when those parts of you line up, when your thoughts, beliefs, and actions are in sync. They called it living according to nature, but really it's just inner alignment. No pretending, no double life, just being the same person inside and out. And when you live that way, the constant inner noise quiets down. You don't have to remember which mask you wore with which person. You don't carry the guilt of betraying yourself. You stand solid because you know you're not at war with yourself anymore. Think about it. How many people look fine on the outside, but are miserable inside because they know they're out of alignment? They chase money, but their gut tells them they're selling their soul. They stay in a relationship that looks good on Instagram, but feels like a cage. They put on smiles at work while their heart is screaming for something real. That kind of split eats away at you. It doesn't matter how good your life looks if you can't sit alone in your room and respect the person you see in the mirror. Alignment doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean you never mess up. It means you're honest about what matters to you, and you actually live by it. If you say discipline is important, then you show up to the gym even when you're tired. If you say kindness matters, you don't trash talk people behind their backs. If you say truth is sacred, you don't bend it just to make life easier. That consistency is where real happiness comes from, because you know your life is being built on something solid. And here's the thing, alignment is rare in today's world. We're told to sell an image, to craft a brand, to be whatever people want us to be. But the Stoics would say, forget that noise. The only audience that matters is yourself. Are you proud of who you are when nobody's watching? If the answer is yes, then you've already won. Now, does living in alignment make life easier? Not always. In fact, sometimes it makes it harder. Speaking the truth can cost you. Doing the right thing might get you less applause. Choosing discipline over indulgence can feel rough. But here's the paradox. Even when the outside gets harder, the inside gets lighter, because you're not carrying the heavy load of lies, guilt, and regret. You're free in a way most people never taste. So ask yourself, where am I out of alignment? Where am I saying one thing but living another? Don't just think about it, fix it. Piece by piece, choice by choice. Because once your mind, your values, and your actions line up, you don't have to chase happiness anymore, you become it. Detachment from external validation. Here's a tough pill to swallow. Most of us are addicted to approval. We act like we're free, but deep down, we're waiting for the world to clap for us. You post a picture and keep checking for likes. You do something good and secretly hope someone notices. You hold back your real opinion because you don't want people to think you're weird. That's not freedom. That's a prison with invisible bars. And the guards? Everyone else's opinions. The Stoics called this out a long time ago. They said, if your happiness depends on what other people think, then you don't actually own your happiness. You've outsourced it. And the worst part is, people's opinions are the most unstable currency in the world. Today, they love you. Tomorrow, they cancel you. Today, you're a hero. Tomorrow, you're forgotten. If that's what you're basing your self-worth on, you're signing up for a lifetime of anxiety. Think about how exhausting it is to live that way. Every outfit, every word, every move, weighed down by the question, what will they think? But here's the kicker, they is usually nobody specific. It's just some blurry idea of people out there. You're bending your whole life around shadows. And that's insane when you stop to think about it. The Stoics pushed for detachment, not in the sense of being cold or not caring about anyone, but in the sense of not letting your soul hang on other people's approval. They taught that the only judgment that really matters is your own. Are you living according to your values? Are you someone you respect? Because if the answer is yes, then applause or criticism doesn't change the truth. You stay grounded no matter what storm of opinions swirls around you. And let's be real, when you stop chasing validation, you actually get stronger. People can sense it. Confidence isn't loud bragging, it's the quiet calm of someone who doesn't need to prove anything. That presence is magnetic. People are drawn to it because it's rare. Most of the world is out here begging to be seen, and the one who's fine without the spotlight stands out effortlessly. Of course, it's not easy. We're wired to care what others think. It's survival instinct. Back in the day, being cast out from the tribe could literally kill you. But today, the tribe is millions of strangers online, and their judgment can't touch your actual survival. It just feels like it can. Detachment is about rewiring that instinct. It's reminding yourself, I don't need the whole world to like me. I don't even need everyone around me to like me. I just need to be real with myself. Here's a practice the Stoics used. Whenever you feel yourself craving approval, pause and ask, whose opinion am I chasing? And why? Half the time, you'll realize it's from someone who doesn't even live by values you respect. Imagine giving the steering wheel of your life to people you wouldn't even ask for directions. Crazy, right? So here's the challenge. Stop trying to be liked by everyone. Focus on being respected by yourself. Because the day you no longer need the crowd's applause to feel solid is the day you finally become free. And that freedom, not popularity, not likes, not praise, is the real definition of happiness the Stoics were talking about. Gratitude as a daily practice. Here's the truth. Most of us are wired to focus on what's missing. You wake up, and instead of noticing the bed you slept in, the roof over your head, the fact that you can breathe, your mind jumps straight to the bills, the problems, the stuff you don't have yet. And then we wonder why happiness feels so out of reach. It's not that life isn't giving us anything to be happy about. It's that we've trained ourselves to ignore it. The Stoics had a weapon against this blindness, and it's called gratitude. Not the cheesy, write 3 things you're thankful for just to tick a box. Real gratitude, daily gratitude, the kind that shifts your perspective and forces you to see how much you already have. Epictetus, who was born a slave, said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." That's someone who had almost nothing and still found happiness. That should tell us something. Gratitude isn't about pretending life is perfect. It's not about denying your struggles or faking positivity. It's about balance. Yeah, maybe today you're broke, maybe you're heartbroken, maybe your job sucks. But you're still alive, which means you still have time. You still have your breath, your mind, your chance to choose. And when you train yourself to see that, suddenly the weight of what you lack doesn't crush you as much. Here's the thing. Gratitude and desire can't coexist in the same space. Remember how we talked about desire being an endless treadmill? Gratitude is how you step off. When you start noticing what you already have, the craving for more loosens its grip. You stop thinking, "I'll be happy when," and start realizing, "I can be happy now, even with this." That's power. Because if your happiness depends on more, you're always poor. But if it depends on gratitude, you're already rich. And the crazy part, gratitude doesn't just change your mood, it changes the way you act. A grateful person treats people better. They're less entitled, less resentful, less bitter. You can feel it when someone lives from gratitude. They radiate something lighter, calmer, stronger. And the opposite is true too. Spend 5 minutes with someone who only complains, and you'll feel your energy drain. Gratitude isn't just personal, it's contagious. The Stoics practiced this daily. They reminded themselves that life itself is temporary, that everything we take for granted could be gone tomorrow. Marcus Aurelius would write about how fragile life is, how every day was a gift. That's not dark, that's clarity, because once you see how short this ride is, you stop waiting to appreciate it. You realize the little things are the big things. The coffee in the morning, the friend who checks in, the fact that you get another shot at today. So here's the challenge, start small. Before you grab your phone in the morning, look around and name one thing you're grateful for. Not in your head, say it out loud. At night, do it again. Train your mind like a muscle. And watch what happens. The same life that used to feel heavy starts to feel lighter, not because it changed, but because you did. The Stoics weren't chasing happiness in some far-off future. They found it in the simple act of noticing. Gratitude wasn't extra. It was the practice that turned ordinary life into a good life. And if you start living it daily, you'll realize happiness was never missing. You just weren't looking. Living according to nature. When the Stoics said, "live according to nature," they weren't talking about hugging trees or going off the grid. Though hey, nothing wrong with that. What they meant was something deeper. Live in alignment with the way life actually works, not the way you wish it worked. Most of our suffering comes from fighting reality. We want the world to bend to our desires, But nature doesn't care about what we want. Seasons change, people age, bodies break down. Time moves forward whether you like it or not. The Stoics said the secret to peace is to stop wrestling with reality and start flowing with it. Think about how much energy we waste resisting what is. We rage at the weather as if the clouds are supposed to follow our plans. We get angry at people for being who they are, instead of accepting that human beings are flawed. We obsess over the fact that life isn't fair, as if fairness was ever promised to us. That resistance is what drains us. Living according to nature means saying, "This is how it is." I can't change the whole game, but I can change how I play. And here's the truth. Nature already gave us a roadmap. We're born, we grow, we struggle, we die. That's the deal. Pretending it should be otherwise is like yelling at gravity because you don't want to fall. The Stoics weren't pessimists, they were realists. They believed that by accepting the laws of life, you actually find freedom. Because once you stop demanding that reality be something else, you can finally work with it instead of against it. This also meant living in harmony with human nature, with reason, with community, with our shared humanity. Marcus Aurelius wrote that humans are like hands or feet. We're meant to work together. So living according to nature isn't just about accepting death and change. It's about living in a way that respects the fact that we're built to cooperate, to help, to contribute. You're not meant to be isolated in selfishness. You're meant to be part of something bigger. And here's where it gets personal. Living according to nature means letting go of the illusion of control over outcomes. You can control your effort, not the results. You can control your character, not your reputation. You can control your choices, not the entire path of history. When you line up your energy with what's natural, effort over outcome, process over prize, you stop burning yourself out, trying to control what was never yours to begin with. Look at water. It doesn't fight the rocks in its path. It flows around them, and over time, it shapes even the hardest stone. That's living according to nature, adapting, moving, and trusting the process. Most people exhaust themselves trying to bulldoze reality into their version of perfect. The Stoics would tell you, let go of that fight, flow, align, work with what is, not what you wish it was. Here's the real freedom. When you live according to nature, disappointment loses its bite. You don't expect life to hand you perfection. You expect it to hand you challenges, and you train yourself to meet them. You don't demand immortality. You appreciate the time you get. You don't whine that the game is unfair. You focus on playing your part with dignity. And that shift is everything. Because at the end of the day, nature always wins. You can resist it and suffer, or you can align with it and find peace. The Stoics chose alignment, and that's why, even in the middle of wars, exile, poverty and loss, they still found a way to live a good life. Happiness is found in self-mastery. At the end of the day, all the Stoic lessons we've been talking about point to one thing: self-mastery. And here's the blunt truth. If you don't control yourself, you don't control anything. You can have money, status, influence, all the toys you want, but if your mind runs wild, if your emotions drag you around, if every impulse owns you, then you're not free. You're a prisoner in your own skin. The Stoics knew this, and that's why they believed happiness is found in mastering yourself. Think about how most people live. They're slaves to their cravings: food, sex, money, attention. They're slaves to anger, snapping at the smallest thing. They're slaves to fear, too scared to take risks or speak up. On the surface, they look grown, but inside they're being pulled around like puppets. That's not a good life. That's survival on autopilot. Self-mastery doesn't mean becoming some stone-faced robot with no feelings. It means owning your reactions instead of being owned by them. It's the ability to feel anger, but not let it drive you into stupid choices. To feel fear, but still step forward. To crave comfort, but still choose discipline. Mastery is the gap between impulse and action, and filling that gap with choice. Here's where happiness comes in. Once you master yourself, nothing outside can shake you. If someone insults you and you're in control, you don't crumble, you choose how to respond. If life throws setbacks at you, you don't panic, you adjust. If desires whisper in your ear, you don't blindly obey, you weigh them against your values. That's real freedom. Because no matter what happens out there, in here, you're steady. And the thing is, self-mastery is rare. Most people avoid it because it's hard. It's easier to blame circumstances, blame people, blame bad luck. But the Stoics flipped it back on us. Your life is your responsibility. You can't control the universe, but you can control yourself. And once you do, you stop being at the mercy of chaos. You stop needing perfect conditions to be okay. You carry your peace with you wherever you go. Marcus Aurelius ruled the biggest empire in the world, and even he wrote to himself, reminding himself to master his own mind, because he knew palaces, armies, power, all worthless if you can't govern yourself. Epictetus, who started life as a slave, said the same thing. No one is free who is not master of himself. Two men from opposite ends of society, both saying the same truth. Happiness isn't in what you own, it's in whether you own yourself. So how do you build it? Start small. When you feel the urge to snap, pause. When you crave comfort, push yourself a little harder. When fear tells you to run, take one step forward anyway. Every time you choose mastery over impulse, you carve a little more freedom inside yourself, and over time, that freedom becomes unshakable. Because here's the bottom line, life will always throw storms your way. You can't stop the waves, but if you've mastered yourself, you can sail through them without sinking. That's what the Stoics meant by a good life. Not a life without pain, without chaos, without loss, but a life where none of those things get to own you. A life where you are steady, calm, and whole, no matter what. And that's where happiness lives, not out there, not in someone else's hands, not in the next desire, but in you, in your ability to master yourself. That's the Stoic superpower. And once you tap into it, you'll never chase happiness again, because you'll realize you've had it all along.